All right, this is a little video introducing what you need to do for the last major lab grade for this semester. For the last major lab grade for this semester, you're going to write a research paper and do an oral presentation on a recent discovery made in the field of biology. To find information about what you need to do, you can go to the lab submenu, go to Biology News Story. And here at the top it says you're going to find one biology discovery news story that was reported in the last year. Note, no Ebola studies will be allowed. If you do a paper and a presentation on Ebola, you will get 0 points. In preparation for your 5-minute oral presentation, which will happen during the dates of December 3rd through December 9th, your Google document will be due 7 a.m. Wednesday, December 3rd. Your Google document must have 2 pages at 1.5 line spacing, 12-point font, 1-inch top, bottom, and side margins. It must have a summary and explanation of the new discovery. It must have how the discovery relates to something we learned this semester. So make sure whatever news story you're reporting that it has to have something to do with something we discovered this, or we talked about this semester. It should not be something relating to ecology because we're not covering that this semester. We're going to cover it next semester. Your Google document must say why it matters to you or us and why it's important. It must have also 2 bits of prior knowledge that the scientist used to come up with their study and their discovery. You can find many prior knowledge studies that are referred to in the introduction section of the original published paper. Note, make sure you can find and access for free the original published paper before you spend time writing your paper. Don't spend a lot of time writing your paper if you can't get access to the original published paper for free. There are a number of websites that publish original scientific papers for free, but there are some scientific journals that don't make the published papers available for free. You'd have to pay for them. I don't want you to use any that you have to pay for. So make sure if you're going to be doing a research paper on a scientific discovery that you can find and you can access the paper for free, because that's where you're going to need to get to the 2 bits of prior knowledge that the scientists used to come up with their study. All right, so I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but first I'll show you where you can, one more thing. At the end of your Google document, you're going to have a bibliography with 2 web references noted in your bibliography. They will probably be a web reference to the original news story and probably a reference to the original published paper, but here's the format for how you do a citation for the internet in a bibliography. Down below that are links to a number of different websites that have news stories relating to science, and I'm going to use the link for Scientific American. Now this link will take you to the online magazine called Scientific American and to their biology section. So Scientific American is a magazine devoted to science, and this link will take you to their biology section, and it has links to a number of stories relating to biology. Not all of these stories are about discoveries that were made in the last year. For instance, this one right here, Plan Now for Future Ebola Outbreaks, is just probably an informational news story, probably not relating to a new discovery. This discovery right here, this article right here, this story, is probably something relating to a new discovery. It says plastic chemical linked to changes in baby boys' genitals, and this probably is going to be related to something we learned about in the very first part of the semester, having to do with chemicals that might affect embryonic development. So I'm going to right click on this, and here is the article, the news story published in Scientific American. This is not written by the scientist. This is not written by the scientist who made the discovery. It's not the original scientific published paper. It's written by a science writer, and she writes for Scientific American and Environmental Health News, and she reads science published papers, and she has the background and expertise to understand the language in the science papers, and she's going to write an article that anybody can understand, that the general public can understand. And so this is her article published in Scientific American. Okay, so this is probably what you are going to need to understand and to be able to write your summary and explanation of the scientific discovery. But somewhere in this news story is going to be the name of the original scientific investigators and or a link to their original published paper. So this right here is a link, and it looks like it's a link to the original published paper. So I'm going to right click on it and open it up, and it opens up to another website that doesn't have the full paper, the full published paper. It's just got the summary of the paper, which is called an abstract, but it does have a link to the original paper, and I think it is going to be for free. So I'm going to right click on it and go to the original published paper. Okay, and so this is how a scientific paper will look. At the top of the paper will be the name of the study, and it will have all the scientists who helped carry out the study, with the first person's name being the primary investigator or the person who headed up the study. And then below that is information about who those people are and where they're from, and how to get in touch with them. And then below that is the beginning of the scientific paper. Okay, all scientific papers start out with a section called an abstract, which is a short summary of their study. Okay, below that is the introduction section. This is the prior knowledge section. This is like the prior knowledge section of your lab reports, where scientists will refer to studies made by other scientists that help these scientists come up with their hypothesis and prediction, to help them come up with their experimental design. So when a scientist or scientists are writing about their study and the results of their study, assuming that the results supported their hypothesis, when they're writing about it, they will list in the introduction section, they will detail all the bits, all the dots of prior knowledge that help them come up and formulate the reason why they're doing their study and their hypothesis and prediction and how they designed their study. So they're going to refer to all those bits of prior knowledge in the introduction section. So here's the first bit of prior knowledge that they're referring to, this sentence right here. And this is the scientist who carried out that previous study, Bergman, and Bergman's colleagues in 2012. So if you wanted to use this as one of the two bits of prior knowledge in your lab report, you would copy the prior knowledge content plus the original authors of that prior knowledge study. Okay, and so further down you can see references to other prior knowledge studies done by other scientists, and all of these studies in the introduction section are bits of information that the authors who made this new discovery used to formulate what they were going to investigate and how they were going to investigate that. And then after the introduction section, scientists will have a section called method, which is basically the procedure section for how they carried out their investigation. And then they're going to have how they carried out their analysis of their results, and then they're going to have their results listed, and then they're going to have a discussion conclusion section for their lab paper. Okay, so this is the look of a typical science studies published paper. Now, you would copy just two of these prior knowledge bits and the names and the dates of those previous studies. You would copy them into your biology news story Google document. Okay, so here is another bit of prior knowledge for that particular study. you would copy all of this sentence plus the authors of those prior knowledge studies. All right. Also on the course website are links to search engines for searching for published papers. If the science news story doesn't have a link to the original published document, you can maybe use the name of the scientist who made the discovery, Bornheg, and search for recent papers using one of these search engines like Google Scholar. So you can search here using that and maybe come up with the link to the original published paper. So I'm going to try that right now. I'm going to copy this and go to Google Scholar and go there, and it's probably somewhere in here. I probably want to use some keywords too. Anyway, these are all search engines for finding original published paper. Down here are several different websites that publish the original papers, and you might use that too. And then at the very bottom are links to 2 tech tools to do online research that can make doing online research easy and efficient. And I'll make another video regarding those 2 things. They are Zoho Notebook and Scribble. And there'll be a separate email for those. Okay, that's it for the introduction to your last major lab grade for the semester.